Welcome, everyone. This is the Abundant Investor Podcast, and we are Beth and Christine, your hosts. We are here to show you how you can live your rich life right now with the power of an abundance mindset and tools the wealthy have used for years that are accessible to the rest of us. Things like real estate investing and using the powerful benefits of life insurance. We're so glad you're here. Now let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Abundant Investor Podcast. We're so glad to be here today. I'm your host, Beth. I'm here with Christine. And today we are going to be talking about the real estate market, what's going on. We're going to be very current with what's happening in the real estate market, what you can do to manage through this market, and how you can really set your mindset in a place that is positive, that you can be in control of it, and that you can really embrace all the positive change that is bound to happen in life.
Exactly. I love this conversation so much. I feel like, Beth, this is one that draws on our expertise around mindset in real estate in the local market around Boston. And a lot of that applies nationally as well. So if someone's listening from outside of Boston, we have a lot of great insight on the overall market. We've been talking about this quite a bit. And there's some new things that are coming in terms of government programs that we want to talk about too, that provide even more opportunities for new homeowners, especially.
I love it. I love it. Let's jump right in with I'm going to give you some stats, but really what I want you to think about is what are the key indicators when you're looking at a market and assessing a market, whether you're buying it as your primary residence or as an investment. The key indicator always has been and always will be inventory. Real estate is a commodity just like anything else, and the laws of supply and demand dictate what happens with every consumer product. And real estate is, people forget that because there's so much emotion to it. It's where you live, it's your home. But
it's so personal.
Really, it's so personal. And there's a lot of emotion when you're buying a home or selling a home. But at the end of the day, it is a commodity.
And an investment, right? Yes. This is something to think about in terms of your long game, your short game. And we want to address all of that because I think when you think about it that way, especially for women, we can be more empowered and make wiser decisions because sometimes the best road is to zig while others zag and to go contrary to what you're hearing. I don't listen to a lot of news because to me it's noise. And I know though that in the news, there's a lot of conversation, a lot of fear right now around interest rates going up and limited supply, but we want to break it down for you and help you see that a little bit differently today.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So, if you look at inventory, we're going to tell you a tale of two markets. And these two markets, if you're not from around here, are markets that are only 7 miles apart. So I'm going to give you just some stats around Milton single families. And here we are in late October of 2023 versus South Boston condos. And I want to, show you, demonstrate to you with these numbers why inventory is the key and most important indicator when you're looking at trends in real estate market. So I'm going to give you three numbers. The first one are months of supply. So in a healthy market when I say healthy market, I mean that there's a pretty equal balance between buyers and sellers. It's not a heavily, weighted towards sellers and not heavily weighted to buyers. The typical sort of inventory levels are around 4 to 6 months. So months of supply in Milton single family right now is 1.7 months. So that means that if not another house went on the market, that everything that's on the market, all 25 houses would all be sold in 1.7 months. That's an extremely low number. Okay, that's what months of supply means. And that's, anything under 2 months is really, really low. So right now it's just under 2 months. That's extremely low. In South Boston condos, that number is 4.4 months. So that's much more of a typical market. It's still on the low side of it, but it's more typical. Now those are two Very different numbers for, again, markets that are only 7 miles apart. The next number I'm going to give you is inventory levels versus 1 year ago. So in Milton, that number is down 26.5%. That's a big, big difference.
So last year there were 26% more longer. The houses were on the market 26% longer than they are now.
No, there was 26% more homes to choose from. It's the inventory level.
Inventory.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So inventory, the amount of homes that are on the market available for sale has come down 26% as of versus a year ago.
Okay.
Where in South Boston for condos, that number is up 4.7. So it's a massive shift in trends. Okay.
Yes.
Now the third number is going to be median sales price, and this is why I'm giving you these stats around inventory, because inventory drives prices. So the median sale price in Milton versus 1 year ago is up 5.3% for a single family home. So inventory's down, prices are up. Makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's again, supply and demand. There's less supply, demand, even if demand remain constant, there's less supply, and that's going to push prices up.
Exactly. You don't have to be an economics major to remember that rule.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's pretty simple. South Boston condos, inventory's up 4.7%. Prices, median price versus a year ago is actually down 1.5. So exactly. So, and that's with an overall months of supply of 4.4, which isn't even like outrageous. That's pretty, so it's just, you can look, I just pulled those two markets out this morning and looked at them. You could pull almost any market out and look at inventory. What are the inventory trends and what are the median price trends? And you will see that relationship.
I just want to ask,
constant.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I'm sure that's consistent for many markets across the country.
Yes.
And because we do have a pretty good size following locally, Beth, and you have so much experience in the Milton market managing offices here for years and years with all these agents, how does that number compare versus like what you've seen over the last 10 years? For inventory?
Inventory is extremely low. It's at one of the lowest rates it's been in past 10 years. And that's been consistent for a long time. Inventory is really low. I think there's 25 houses on the market, give or take right now. When I first got into real estate in the 06, 07 timeframe, we had just the opposite market. It was a buyer's market. Inventory levels were high. There were well over 125 homes on the market then. So if you think about that, just the choice, right? You had, and when buyers have choice, they have no sense of urgency, right? There's no like, I have to buy this house because they can just say, well, another house will come on next week when inventory rates are that high. So it was, different reasons for the markets being different, banking crisis and all that. It's a whole different set of reasons why the markets are so different, but it's the same, the inventory, that's why prices were down, because inventory was so high. So when people say when people talk about national trends in real estate, it's a little bit of an oxymoron to say that there's a national real estate trend, because interest rates are going up everywhere. But I just gave you a tale of two very different markets that are only 7 miles apart. So what's happening in Boston is very different than what's happening in, say, Arizona or Texas or, other places. It's just, you really, when you're looking at real estate, having somebody that knows the local market really well is very, very important. And then making sure you're asking that agent the right questions. Because if you don't ask these questions, they're probably not going to offer you this information, is my experience.
No, exactly. I think whether an agent knows that information or not, it might feel like overload to share it all with their buyer. I think, and one of the things we were talking about that you are doing with your most recent clients that are under contract right now, this just happened, right? Is you ask them, do you want me to give you more information? Do you want my thoughts on this, right? Yeah. And I just love that, because you're giving them agency to ask you for as much of your opinion, because it starts to get a little bit into your preferences potentially.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted your input. Do you think this is a good first home for us to buy? Do you think this is, we can add value and add equity to it?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And I think because of your experience, not just managing agents, but also in being an agent, you've had a lot of experience in this particular market with all different types of projects, from building your own home to renovating a home completely, right? So you understand the economics of the market really well. And I think it's so important for an agent to think about the big picture with their client and, sit down like you're making a huge financial decision and make sure that we're being strategic about the purchase and thinking about, if someone's willing to add equity, well, it's a great idea to buy a place that needs some or a lot of fixing up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's regardless of the overall bigger market condition and what's happening in the marketplace. I mean, that will always hold true with real estate. If you can add some sweat equity, if you can, and I mean, you're up right now, you're working on a Airbnb investment property that you had, and you're adding value as we speak, right? I mean, it's incredible.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So and I love doing that. And some people want a finished product, and that's why it's so valuable, because there's buyers for, there are the people that want to move in ready. They want turnkey. So there is a market really for everyone. And I think that while many people might shy away from today's market because of interest rates or because of the low demand supply on the market, I think it's actually a really interesting time to be thinking about buying real estate. There's always a market, because there's always these factors of why people have to sell their house or why people are looking to buy their house that are really unpredictable. Like, life is full of change and we can't necessarily manage it all. So it's how do we roll with it? And I think that with mindset, and not to jump too far ahead, but we can actually have an advantage, and I believe manifest what we want if we get really clear on what it is that we want. There's ways to do things, and part of what we want to do is open your mind to different ways of thinking about the market.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, you made a really good point there, Christine. Here's some facts that are very simple, right? Everybody needs a place to live, and change is constant. So we've done some previous episodes around the D's of life, like diapers, diplomas, daycare, divorce, death. All of those things are reasons why people have to move, right? When there's a death in the family, it's very often that there's a sale of a property soon thereafter. A divorce, well, can't live together, so you have to live separately.
Someone's moving out.
Yeah, someone's moving out, and most of the time, it's best to sell that family home and start with two separate homes and move on with your life, right? Mm-hmm. Diapers, that baby's coming, whether the interest rates are 5%, 8%, or 3%. They don't care, 10. Yep. And when your house is getting crowded with more kids, you're going to need more space. And so, I mean, these are things, this is life. And so,
right.
When your diplomas, when kids are going off to college, you don't need as much house. You might want to tap into the equity of that house and sell and downsize so that you can, enjoy a smaller living area, maybe use that money to do things like pay for college or travel or whatever it may be. So downsizing, divorce, diapers, death, all those things are here to stay.
Exactly. And I loved, you were talking about yesterday on Instagram, you were talking about if you're looking in this market to hang in there. And I think that's so important, because eventually, if we're really clear about what we want, it comes to fruition. Mm-hmm. And we don't necessarily know exactly how or why. And I know that the home buying process can be so emotional. I've had a lot of friends who have been trying to buy houses in the last several years who've made multiple offers and been through a lot. And I just feel like, like anything, when I'm, thinking about all different types of scenarios, it always works out. So eventually, if you hang in there, and a lot of times this is just like being an entrepreneur, you've got to hang in there and you've got to keep going because things are destined to come together and the prize will go to the person that's persistent. So right. I think it's so important to hang in there. And then right now, what I think about too, from a seller's point of view is, I think a lot of times we have a hit or an inclination about what we want, and our kids might have grown out of the house and we might crave a smaller space. And we don't act on it though, because change is hard. I think ultimately, like, it's easier for humans to stay in the condition, the state that they're in, than to make a change, because making a change requires us to move towards the unknown. And all the research is there to show that moving towards the unknown is scary for our primitive brains, because we don't know if the saber-toothed tiger is going to be there or the lion's going to come running out of the cave. But in that part of our brain is great for keeping us safe, and part of it's really outdated. And I think it's so important to continue to move towards the bigger, the better, more evolved version of ourselves, and listen to those hits, because that instinct that we have to move to another part of town or to downsize or to sell the house and go maybe live around the country or around the globe for a year, they're calling us, and they can be super exciting. And it does it require getting out of your comfort zone a little? Absolutely. But if you're open to that, and I think there's so much goodness in taking that type of a step, it's a great time to sell your house too. And it's going to put cash in your pocket that you can then have towards your next house right away, later on down the line, whatever you want to do. And there's so many ways that it can all work together, as opposed to maybe what you saw your parents do or what you see your neighbors do. And we want you to be able to see there's so much more there for you.
I love it. This is actually why I'm listening to you speak, and it makes me say, this is why I love what I do. I love it. It's so possible. And people do get into this habit or this lifestyle that, like, I have to have this big house because that's how my parents, lived. And we talked about this in another podcast once before about, like, changing the status quo. If you don't want that big house anymore, or if you just want it so your family can gather for the holidays, rent a huge Airbnb in Vermont on the mountain.
Love it.
And have everybody gather there.
Or take them on a trip with all the proceeds, with a small portion of the proceeds. Yeah. Go have Thanksgiving in the Bahamas if you want.
Yeah, your family's your family. It's not your home. Your home is wherever you gather as a family,
Love
and
that.
It's not and so I think, but I think that that's rooted in fear, Christine, like you're saying. I think that's really what happens is people get fearful that, oh, I'll be homeless, or I'll never find a place to live, or, my kids won't come visit if we don't have a big permanent home. And I think that, you're right. The ability to change the mindset and to really get clear about what you want and take the time to do that work. It's really fun. It's really fun when you do that. And you see this, and you are an amazing coach. You were the coach that I hired to make a big change in my career. And, having that skill set, and I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about that, because I know you see that with your clients, is watching them get over the fear of the status quo and taking that leap to do something new, whether it's a career or a move or whatever it may be.
I think so. I think we all have these instincts and callings, and that we're made for something bigger. I think we can feel that. And when we're really in tune with ourselves, and it might mean that you have to if you're not feeling it now, it might mean that you meditate and get clear on it, or you take some time and go on a hike, or do whatever you do to just move away from all the noise in life, because there's so much of it, right? And when we get clear, we can hear what it is that our soul really wants. And that's a sign to help point us in the right direction and move us out of the current condition into the next version of ourselves. There's always next versions of ourselves. It's a myth that it's only for some people, or that I could never do that, or that I need, and then we make up all these stories that, oh, I have to stay in my job until I get my bonus, or until I'm a certain age and I collect my pension. And that's a story. That's a story that's fabricated based on the information that you've gathered from probably those people close to you, whether it's keeping up with the Joneses or your parents or whatever. And there's also there's actually infinite other paths. And when we can understand what it is that we really want, then we can move towards that, because otherwise we subconsciously, we're just taking in the program from around us and saying, oh, well, they bought that big house, I guess I should go buy a big house. Or they are downsizing and moving to this community, I guess we should start to think about moving to a 55 plus community. And I have friends talking about moving to 55 plus communities who are just 50 and like super vibrant, and I'm like, wait, what? Like I think that there's this whole journey of with your house, like for an example, is an adventure, right? You can think of it as an adventure. And where do you want to go? What do you want to do? There's always going to be something available. Life always works out. Like if you look back, your track record is 100%. Like you're still here. It's working out for you. Yeah. So I think if you can bring that into real estate, that's what you and I have done, Beth. And it opens the possibilities so much more. And if people heard it, sometime we'll talk through the details. I think we have in past episodes of how both of us have acquired the current property where we're residing now. Like it's pretty unbelievable. And so much of it for both of us was taking the leap of faith. It wouldn't have happened for either of us if we were very conventional about the way that we bought and sold homes. So we talk about.
I love what you just said about it being an adventure. It made me think of our mindset. If you think about children and the way they make decisions and the way they see the light, they see the world. They see the world with much more adventure and seeking adventure. And I remember when I was telling my kids that we're going to be selling the house that they sort of all were born and raised in until, the ripe old age of 4 to 8, But I remember framing it that this is going to be a fun adventure, building a new house from the ground up. And I remember taking them over and showing them the trucks, building the home and walking through the house as it was being built. And I loved watching that whole process through the eyes of my children because they did see it as an adventure. It was so fun. And I think that we get to do that as adults, is to really change that, the glass, the lens that we're looking through life at, and try to be a little bit more like children and have that, sense of adventure and it just a different view, change the paradigm a little bit. And I think that's a really, I love what you're saying there. I think that really it's true. And if you think about that, right now, think about how you feel right now hearing all this and talking about it, and then interest rates are 8%. Well, who cares? I mean,
who cares if the numbers work for you? If the numbers work for you, who cares? Because so many things are possible. You get to break the rules. Just because you put 20% down on your first house doesn't mean that's what you're putting down on your next house. Maybe you're putting 50% down, and then you've got an 8% interest rate on the other 50% that you're borrowing from the bank. Maybe you're selling and renting. Maybe there's just like so many different ways to think about it. I think it's fascinating. So I love that. And don't be afraid to zig while others zag, right? Like go in the direction that works for you. And for a lot of people, I see this in the real estate investing community. People are showing the numbers of how it works with an 8% loan. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's spreadsheets available. I mean, you can analyze the numbers. And we gave you some numbers at the beginning of this podcast. You have a good agent, you can always analyze the numbers, and either they work or they don't. Whether, again, it's an investment or your primary residence. But, it was funny. I was talking to some friends the other night, and we were saying when we first bought our house, does anybody remember what the interest rate was? Probably not.
No,
you know what I mean?
I had no idea.
I got pre-approved.
I had nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, exactly. I got pre-approved. Here was my income. And the loan officer told us, here's how much money based on whatever the interest rates were at the time that you can afford. Okay, great. Now we know what to go out and shop for. And That's really my point of, in saying ingest, it doesn't matter. It really kind of doesn't, because when interest rates eventually do come down, you can refinance. And, you can, and
it's
then
not forever.
Yeah, exactly. This is not forever. And who knows, they may go up, they may go down. We don't know. People want to predict that. It's not something that's really, it's certainly not my expertise to try to predict that. My expertise and our expertise is, what are you trying to accomplish? What feels good to you? And how can we make that happen?
Love it. It's so true. It's so true. And I think, some people want to buy their forever home. A lot of us might want to buy our forever home, and then we end up not being in that forever home because of these reasons, like death, divorce, diapers, diploma, right? And then sometimes we just have other things happen, and some of us other times we just don't want to be in that place forever. So like, you have to run the numbers also based on how long you think you're going to be there, and see if that makes sense, and think about, well, what's my bigger vision, and have a big vision, right? Like, that's a lot of my work as a coach, is to help people have that vision and really believe that they're worthy of it, believe that they can have something out there, and that it's actually a really big positive, as opposed to, oh, it's not really going to change my course. Yes, it is. Because if you have something big out there that you're going for, you're going to see everything through a different light. You're going to always be reaching for that higher branch, and you're going to step out of the status quo more, because you know that exists for you. And if you can dream it, it exists for you.
I love it. I love it. I'm reading a great book right now for the second or third time, called The Big Leap. I love it.
Oh,
it's a great book. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. And I've already listened to it once before, but I'm listening to it. I've read it, but now I'm listening to it, and it's so great. It's been so fun. But awesome. It's a lot of what you're talking about there, Christine.
Oh, so good. So there was one more thing we just wanted to touch on, which is a pretty neat opportunity that's coming up in current events, and that is the new Fannie Mae guidelines. Beth, do you want to talk a little bit about that and what that means for home buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. So as of November 18th, 2023, Fannie Mae has some new guidelines out, and what they're allowing is to have the loan to value ratio go up to as high as 95% on 2 to 4 unit properties, which is an amazing change. So you can get into a 2 to 4 unit property for as little as 5% down.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
Yes. So that's a major change. I think of this being an awesome opportunity for people that are, first-time home buyers. Okay. So if you didn't have in your sort of mindset buying a multifamily as your first property, because it was requiring you to put 20% down, it would be a really smart move to go back to your loan officer and get pre-qualified for a multifamily, and see what that could look like for whether it's 2, 3, or 4 unit property. So I would suggest highly that you do that. And if you're thinking about investing in real estate and you were, waiting for your in my case, I'm using a high cash value life insurance policy to fund our next investment. And now I don't have to wait as long. I was thinking that it was going to be, 2 or 3 years down the line, but maybe it's only one year down the line.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, exactly. So it allows you to move forward with some plans that maybe you thought were longer term based on saving up that down payment. So I think it's really, really exciting.
That's so fun. Yeah. And I think we'll just give this plug for the multifamily home. I think it's an incredible opportunity that there are now, I think with people being able to work remotely more, there are a lot more opportunities too, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe think outside the box and think where could you live for a couple years, even if maybe it's not your ideal town, but you can afford in this town a 2-family home with 5% down. Think about what that could look like for a couple years, and then you could move out, and then you could hold on to that property as an investment. I love that strategy.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah, it really is. It opens up a lot of doors for folks. And it really is a game changer. So that's going to be as of November 18th, 2023. If you want to learn more about this, we will have a link in the show notes to set up a introductory call. We'd love to talk to you guys. And yes, we'll talk about all the numbers, but guess what? We're really good about talking about the mindset stuff too. And if you can't tell, we really enjoy that.
We're always going to bring that to any deal we do together, any conversation we have. It's just a part of who we are. So, this is great. So if you want to chat current events, let us know. If you're catching this podcast and you want to join us for a real estate investment coffee, we're doing those monthly. So please reach out to us, email us at Christine at The Abundant Investor or Beth at The Abundant Investor to get on our list for that. And we'd love to invite you. If you're thinking about selling or buying your home or buying an investment property, please reach out and let's chat. We love to have these conversations. It's just for us, it's sitting and talking to people that we enjoy about some of our favorite things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, great. Thanks, everybody.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Abundant Investor Podcast and learned something new. We would love to hear from you. And if you did get something from this episode, please subscribe and rate this podcast so more people can find it and live their rich lives too. And remember, an abundant mindset means there's always plenty to go around, and through giving, we receive.